to go for a PhD in chemical engineering, right? And towards the after my third year, I actually went for some foreign internships, foreign thesis for close to 6 months. I had applied for US universities. I wrote GRE. I followed all the process. I got admitted to a good, I got admitted to a few good ones. But eventually, while I was doing my research internship, by the way, I was doing my research internship at National University of Singapore. So I realized there that I cannot do chemical engineering for life, right? And that is when I decided to move back to India. And after completing my undergrad in 2019, I joined a supply chain logistics company called Delivery, which was then a decently big startup. Now it's a big company. But there I worked for a couple of years in a supply chain role. It was blend of analytics, supply chain, and business development. There I decided that I wanted to do an MBA. I wrote CAT. CAT was, and that was the first time CAT introduced the concept of 2 hours. Earlier, it used to be 3 hours. So my batch was the first time it was 2 hours. So they experimented with our batch. CAT went well. I was able to score 99.95, and I got all the calls. I was fortunate that I was able to convert all of them, and eventually I chose IIM Bangalore, which was an unconventional choice over IIM Ahmedabad. So I joined IIM Bangalore, and then at IIM Bangalore, I did my summer internship with a private equity firm. Uh, after my after my MBA, I joined an investment banking firm for close to 6 months. But then I moved back to that private equity firm where I did my summer internship. So currently, for last 2 years, I'm working with this private equity firm, right? So yeah, that's my background. Uh, I had invested a lot of time in my GDPI prep. Okay, and uh, the reason why I had to invest a lot of time, and I'm glad that I did, is because initially I think I invested a lot of money. I would not take the name of the institutes. Few of you know it, but I invested some 60 70,000 in some coaching institutes, but I did not get very good guidance from them, the type of guidance I needed. And that is why I had to do a lot of self reflection. But that period of self reflection, that exercise of self reflection, it really helped me a lot. And in all the interviews that I appeared for, I think that exercise of just spending time with myself, understanding, okay, this needs some revision, this needs to come out in my profile, which others and other mentors were not helping me with. That eventually came out during my interviews, and that is why I was able to convert all of them. uh, yeah, so that is a bit about me. Nikhil, who is the other co-mentor in this program, he is my junior from IIM Bangalore. uh, he scored he's from NIT Jamshedpur. He scored a 99.85 or 83 in CAT with 100 percentage and 100 percentile in Quant. And he was basically, I know him from his CAT days where he used to be my mentee, and he eventually ended up um, performing much better than me, at least in quants. And then he got all the calls except A, and he was again able to convert all the calls. So the unique thing about this mentor group is that our strike rate in converting the calls is 100%. We converted all the calls we had. Okay. So yeah, so that's a bit about our background. We'll link this background to tell me about yourself when we come to that. But we wanted to spend some time on your GDPI prep, how you should go about it for the next couple of months. What are they trying to test, and what components are there in the GDPI sort of process? Okay. Um, yeah, and yeah, so that is how we plan to run this section. For this one, we have uh, um, intentionally not created any PPT. What we'll do is we'll just open one Excel file, an empty Excel file, and we will write everything from scratch, because we want you to think in this session, and we want you to ask questions wherever you have doubt. Yeah, so that is how we'll run this section, this session. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, let me know when you can see the screen. Is it visible? Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah, and also the profile form that we had shared with you, a lot of you have really done a very good job in showing your honesty. See, we are not the panelists. We are not judging you based on the responses. We are just trying to help you refine your story. Okay, and trust me, every story can be defended. Any and every story can be defended. People with 2 3 years of experience, 2 3 years of gap in their profile, they have been able to defend their story, so you can as well. So we wanted utmost honesty and clarity from all of you. And see, we wanted your raw version, and that is why we emphasized a lot on not using chat gpt or any AI tool for framing those answers. Okay, because we want to know, see, chat gpt, when you're using chat gpt or any AI tool, that is already one level of refinement, or your basically your raw thought is not coming out clearly. That is already one level of structuring. Okay, but we would also do that structuring, but we will do those structuring after discussing those with you. We are going to use that form to refine your YMB answer, your tell me about yourself answers, to sort of highlight the green flags, the red flags in your profile. And we are going to take your mock interviews based on what you have written. We are going, whatever red flags or green flags we are observing in your profile, we want those to either come out very strongly, or how you should sort of create your story as to how you should create your story. So that is the reason why we wanted you to be extremely raw with us when you're writing your answers. So please, going forward, I think this is the first exercise. That is why a lot of you have used chat gpt, which I have pointed out in person, in the over DM. So do not take it to your heart. Our intention is to make sure that your raw story is coming out properly. And over the over the course of next 5 to 7 days, so we have already started reviewing your profile form. We have made a lot of comments as well, but those comments are mostly for our reference. You do not have to worry about those comments if you're not able to understand. And in next 5 to 7 days, what we are planning to do is we'll look at all of your profiles, and then we are going to DM each one of you, highlighting the good things about your profile, the bad things about your profile, the type of work that you need to do to sort of amplify, glorify, or whatever, like to make your story better. So that is going to happen over the course of next few days. So yeah, if you have any doubts, anything, you can just ask us anytime. You can reach out to us. We'll try to respond as quickly as possible. So yeah, so that is about the profile form. Now coming to your GDPI prep. Okay, I hope you're able to see this Excel. Yes. Okay. 1 second. See, so overall GDPI prep, it has two components. Okay. First component is your profile based questions, or basically your personal questions. Personal questions. Okay. And second component is your non-personal questions. Simple. Okay. Personal questions, this is 50% of your. See, a lot of coaching institutes, they focus a lot on GK and stuff, and other stuff, because it's easier for them to prepare you for those, because then they have to prepare the same content which can be utilized by the mass. Okay, so they are just trying to sort of minimize their effort while maximizing their profit. Okay, so that is why you'll see that a lot of coaching institutes, they are preparing you a lot for GK, current awareness, stuff like those, but very little on personal questions. But trust me, this is where things, basically this is a make or break. Non-personal questions is the balance 50%. Now we'll come to personal questions a bit later. Coming to non-personal questions, again this has two components. One is basically academics, or if you have workex or workex related questions. Okay. And the other bit is your general awareness. Okay. Now, out of this 50%, you can assume this to be 25 to 30%. For sake of simplicity, I'm writing it 25%. General awareness is again 25%. Okay. So 50, 25, 25 is the uh, breakup. Okay. Now, this 25%, again, you can further sort of break it down into two pieces. One, basically must know. One, good to know. Similarly, general awareness, one is must know, one good to know. Must know is, say again, 10% of this. Good to know is balance 15%. This is 10%. This is 15%. Okay. Now, the unpredictable part of an interview, okay, is just these 30%. These 30% which are good to know, this is the unpredictable part of the interview. The predictable part of the interview is this 50%, because this is your personal story. Now we'll come to the breakup of personal questions as well. The must knows in your academics or workex is sort of linked to your personal questions. Now, how is this linked to your personal questions? We'll again come to this. Similarly, general awareness, must know within general awareness is 10%, which is again linked to your personal questions. Okay, so eventually 50 plus 10, uh, 50 plus this 10 plus this 10, 70% is eventually linked to your personal questions. Okay, now you have to make sure that you are acing this 70%. Okay, and in this 70%, there is very little room to say I don't know in an interview, because it's your personal story. You cannot not know your own story. And these good to knows in this 30%, it's okay if you say I don't know in the interview, The problem is that most of the students, most of the candidates, they'll prepare very hard for this 30%, where the predictability is very low. And because everyone has limited time, and they have invested most amount of time in this 30%, they are not able to ace this balance 70%. Okay, which is the make or break. In my IIM Calcutta interview, they were asking me random questions, random GK questions, 10 questions, straight line 10 questions. I was just blank. I just kept on saying I don't know. Or obviously in a humble, in a polite manner, we'll have one session dedicated to how to say I don't know in an interview, and what are the interviewers trying to check, panelists trying to check on those 10, 12 questions where you have answered I don't know, right? So that is going to be a separate session, so we'll come to that. But my point is, after 10 questions where I said I don't know, I still was able to convert IIM Calcutta in the first list. And a lot of people who thought they had aced the interview because they were able to answer all the random GK questions, they were not able to convert, or at least not in the first sort of list. Okay. The reason why I was able to convert my IIM Calcutta interview was, first thing, I was the way I was responding I don't know, that was very humble, very polite, and I showed my curiosity in those questions. The I'm We are going to give you some sample responses, but it was in this line that, okay, I don't know at this moment, I cannot recall at this moment, and I should have definitely read about this. I'll make sure to read about this after I go back home. So in this similar, basically, I'm not just saying I don't know, I'm saying that, okay, it's my mistake, I did not know, but I'll definitely make it a point to sort of read about it. So that is on I don't know. But the point is that after you have responded I don't know to 10 questions, how you are coming back in the 11th question is what matters. Okay, because in when they are preparing you for a management type position, a leader type position, and in a leader type, in a leader type role, in a management type role, there'll be a lot of ambiguous situations where you will have no answer to situations. Then your soft aspects, how you are keeping calm, are you able to, even after even after being in a very stressful scenario, are you able to think clearly, are you able to, you know are you able to play to your strength? That is what matters. So even after 10 bad questions, I was able to gather myself. I was keeping a cool head. I was keeping a smile on my face, and I was able to answer that 11th question very confidently. So basically, those 10 questions did not affect my 11th question. And I think, again, I cannot be very sure, but I think that is what uh, made me convert IIM Calcutta. Okay. Similarly, my second half of IIM Ahmedabad was pretty bad. Okay, similar. I was not able to answer basic questions, basic GK questions, but that was okay. Okay, and I was able to convert IIM Ahmedabad as well. Bangalore was good. Bangalore was mostly personal questions, and so yeah. So this is the whole of your GDPI prep. Now, for non-personal questions, for good to know in your academics and work-ex, we will cover this bit later. We are not going to cover this in this session. We'll just briefly touch upon good to know for general awareness, the kind of topics that we are going to send you every week. So what our plan is, that our plan is to share with you 10 topics every week, maybe on Saturday, on Sunday. You need to have a good understanding of those topics. Apart from that, we are anyway sharing with you daily resources, daily, just not resources, but basically uh, we are having daily discussions on the group, and towards the end of the discussion we are posting couple of articles. So just make sure to be a part of those discussions, do some research before coming to the discussion. And then after the discussion has happened, make sure to read those two articles. Currently what we have observed in your responses is that it is, you are throwing a lot of your personal opinions with little facts and numbers. Okay, the uh, how you should respond to any general awareness question is, first you should state the fact, basically what the question basically, in a way sort of define the question. Point two is throw some facts, and third is, given all of the above points, this is my view. Your view is very important, but it should be backed by facts and definition. Okay, a lot people were discussing about subsidy and GDP data and stuff like those, but there were very little use of numbers and facts. And in such topics, in topics like GDP, you cannot go to the panelist and not talk about numbers. Okay, so just be mindful of that. So for basically for general awareness, what you need to do is, you need to just follow the group discussion every day, and apart from that you need to follow the list of 10 topics that we plan to share every Sunday. Okay, you need to have good facts and opinions on those. Okay, and we have shared a few links as well. So for just for facts, you can follow Study IS YouTube channel. I personally used to like that channel a lot, and I think that helped me gain a lot of understanding. So Study IS YouTube channel, that is very good for facts. For opinions, Cut the Clutter and Beyond, these two are very good for opinions. So you can just follow these three, and you trust me, there's a lot of information out there in the world, but you do not need to know everything for this 30%. You are okay, even you can say I don't know in these 30% of the questions. Okay, they're not going to judge you on those basis. This, trust me on this, they're not going to judge you basis these 30%. If you know, if you have some opinion, that is good, but eventually you need to ace this personal section and other bits of must know. Okay, now coming to personal questions and the agenda behind the main agenda behind this session. So personal is 50%, as I told you, out of which, tell me about yourself or introduce yourself or whatever version of this is 15 to 20%. Say 15%. Your why MBA question, your clarity behind doing an MBA is 25%. And follow-ups to these two, this is basically 10%. So if you are very thorough, if you have thought through a lot, and if you have thought of all the possible follow-up questions, okay, after forming the answers to these two, okay, this 40%, you can easily ace follow-ups. And w- what makes an interview difficult or easy? It's not the questions stand alone. Even if so, consider a scenario. If the questions are very difficult, but you already know the questions, is that a difficult interview? No, because you already knew the questions. Okay, however, if the questions are easy but sort of unexpected, then that is a difficult interview. Okay, so eventually the difficulty level of an interview boils down to how predictable that interview is. Okay, the reason why we were able to ace our interviews was not because we knew everything out there. We did not know a lot of things. We were very shallow in our knowledge. Okay, but we could predict our interviews, we could steer our interviews in whichever direction we wanted to. And that is why we were very thorough with all the follow-up questions. We had already anticipated all the follow-up questions, and that is why we were well prepped, and that is why we had 100% strike rate. Okay, and this is the only bit out of this whole 100% thingy. This is the only bit where you can actually predict the interview line of questioning. Okay, and when an interviewer is asking you to tell this question, tell me about yourself, or introduce yourself, or any variation of this, the interviewer is giving you an opportunity to steer your interview in your preferred direction. Okay, so consider this an opportunity. Now a lot of you, when you're asked tell me about yourself, you'll probably start talking about my 10th was this, 12th was this. That is okay, that is already there in the profile form. Okay, that is no new information for me, and you have wasted that one very important question which you could have utilized to steer your interview. Okay, so that's a waste of a response. Okay, so you need to do a lot of work on tell me about yourself, and we are going to give you a framework as to how you should think about this question. Okay, and I'm going to give you mine example as well, and basis that you can also frame your response. I will give you my verbatim my tell me about yourself answer a bit later, because I want you to think as well before you look at my response. Otherwise, a lot of you will start sort of copy pasting the format, which is not going to help you. Yeah. So the way to think of tell me about yourself question is, you need to list down 5 to 6 key things. Okay, which you want to be highlighted in the interview, or or basically you want the line of questioning, the next line of questioning, to happen around this. So in my case, taking my case, I want, and also 5 or 6 things where you feel most comfortable with and where you have prepped a lot. Okay, so I wanted my interviewer to ask me about my hometown, which was Muzaffarpur in Bihar. My hometown, that was one. My upbringing, because this is not coming out in my profile form or any of the forms. So those were the 2 things. Second, I wanted them to ask about my research internships and why I switched from uh, research to corporate, why I decided to not pursue PhD. Next thing, I was working in logistics industry, so I wanted them to ask me about logistics industry, and I'll tell you how I had prepped for these things. And I wanted them to ask about my hobby. Okay. Now, um, basically, if I have to give you a framework, you should spend around 40%, 30 to 40% of your time talking about 30% or 40% of the words talking about your background, your hometown, your city, the values that you have learned, values, hometown, etc. This is 30 to 40%. Another 30 to 40% is your acads. Basically, give some brief about your acad, but don't just say, okay, I did my schooling from this, I did my undergrad from this. Your acads, your work ex, brief about your work ex, and balance 20% maybe about your hobbies and about your hobbies. Now I'm going to give you my final tell me about yourself. Again, not verbatim, but this is how it was. I'll share the verbatim version later. So basically, my tell me about yourself was, hi everyone. I'm Shivam. I was born and brought up in Muzaffarpur, which is in Bihar, and it is known for its lychee. I was fortunate to be born in a family where education was prioritized and it was valued. Following my curiosity in science and technology, I joined BITS Pilani, where I pursued a degree in chemical engineering. I was fortunate at BITS that I got multiple research opportunities at uh, famous universities and very deemed universities outside of India. I had initially plans of doing a PhD, and for that I went to National University of Singapore. That was a great experience and great opportunity, but eventually I had to drop that plan. I came back to India. I joined delivery. I was fortunate that I was interested with responsibilities, big responsibilities early on. I learned a lot. Outside of work, I like to trek, and I have learned, and in fact, I have learned one of the most important life lessons during these treks, that sometimes in life, moving forward is the only choice. So, yeah, so this was my tell me about yourself. Now, if you see, I have spoken about the education values that my family brought. Okay, I wanted them to question me about, okay, what is the education scenario in Bihar and why was it so valued. I because I had very serious opinions about those things. Okay, so that was one hook element. So I knew everything about Muzaffarpur. Its GDP, its employment rate, last 50 years political history of Bihar. Okay, lychee production, contribution of lychee production to our GDP, import export of GDP of lychee, everything, every possible thing of about Muzaffarpur I knew. Okay, after that I talked about, I already had very good answers related to why I wanted to do PhD initially and why I decided not to do it. And then in my work as I told you about, logistics industry was my is where I did my work, is where I did my uh, first job. I knew everything about logistics industry. I knew, okay, currently logistics cost in India is 12% of its GDP. For developing uh, for developed nations, it is 3% of the GDP. So that extra 8 or 9% of the supply chain inefficiency is because of this. In the logistics performance index, India is ranked 34th or 36th, and it is because of this. These are the major levers where we can reduce the inefficiencies. And delivery, which was my company, how is it trying to solve for those inefficiencies? What are the different policies related to logistics? What has government done? What has So basically, each and everything about logistics industry, I had a very good idea. And then finally about hobbies, where I mentioned I like to trek. I knew again everything about trekking. What is the difference between trekking, hiking, blah blah blah. What is the contribution of trekking to Indian tourism sector? What is the contribution of Indian tourism sector to its overall GDP? If trekking is not there, what will happen to Indian GDP? If tourism is not there, what will happen to Indian GDP? How many sort of how many uh, whatever tourists does it attract every year? What are the famous trek places? And basically everything. What type of weather conditions do you need to actually ace in trekking? What are the physical requirements? So basically, the way to think about your tell me what yourself is, eventually it comes down to this 5 6 key things. So write those 5 6 key things, write down those things, write down 5 6 key things. Okay, basis that, try to come up with your tell me about yourself, and eventually your tell me about yourself will have a lot of nouns. Okay, so for example, Bits Pilani is a noun, Muzaffarpur is a noun, Lychee is a noun. Likewise, you'll find 10 to 12 nouns, or even more, or can be less, but 12 to 15 nouns in your tell me about yourself. And you have to make sure that you are an expert of those 12 to 15 nouns that you have mentioned in your tell me about yourself. Okay, so yes, this is how you should prep about this is how you should prep for your tell me about yourself. Now your next task is, okay, and yeah, I've already given you the framework. So basically, first couple of statement, you should talk about your background, values, hometown, family, etc. Okay, second, so and try to come up with some hook element. Basically, some, you should try to generate some curiosity in the mind of your interviewer using those hook elements, so that okay, I'm just waiting for you to complete your answer, and then I'll pick up on those hook element, and then I'll start questioning on those hook element. The good thing about this is that because you have put in those hook element, you already can anticipate that okay, this is where, this is the line which an interviewer can take. This is, and so I'm already prepared for this. So basically you have reduced the amount of unpredictability in an interview, right? So that is how you should think about this. And similarly, your, will come to your acads and how you should prepare for your acads, because that's a very that's a very niche topic, and we need one focus session on acads separately, so we'll come to that. And similarly about your hobbies, and so try to include 2 or 3 sentences on this, 2 or 3 again on this, and maybe just towards the end of it, just end it with your hobbies. Okay, think of it this way: a panelist would, if a panelist has to spend 4 hours with you in an airport lounge, are you an interesting person with which the panelist would be happy to spend those 4 hours? That is what you have to demonstrate in 20, in this 20%. That 20% is for, so this 60 to 70% is basically about the ethics, the values that you are carrying, how serious you are in life. But then this 20 to 30% is what is going to separate you from the rest of the crowd, because most of them are going to focus on the first 2 half and not the third one. And that is not that person is not going to be a great business leader. Okay, so you need to demonstrate this as well. So your next exercise, uh, and we are going to review it as well. So based on whatever, however many words you can speak within a minute, try to come up with 3 versions of tell me about yourself. 3 versions of tell me about yourself. First version is a 60 seconds version. Second version is 120 seconds version, which is essentially 2 minutes version. And the third one is a 5 minutes version. So sometimes the panelist is like, so there are multiple variations of this question. And again, one fourth one which I'll come to later. So maybe four versions. There are different variations of this question. Some panelists would be like, pitch your profile to us. So if that is the question, it is essentially a version of tell me about yourself, but that panelist is giving you an opportunity to tell us everything about yourself. So in that case, you have to be ready with a 5 minutes version. In So normally it's going to be a 2 minutes version where basically you'll be given a couple of minutes to speak about your profile and they're not going to interrupt you. In a 60 seconds version, basically you will, from the body language, you'll identify that the person is in a hurry, or he or she will hint by saying something like this, that quickly introduce yourself, something like that. So in that question, the way you have to respond is you have to make sure that all the highlights of your profile are coming within the 60 seconds. And at the same time, the way you have to end that answer is that if you want me to talk about anything in detail, I can cover that as well. This is how you're going to end the answer. And in a 2 minutes version as well, you can say that if you feel that the if from the body language you can see that okay, the panelist seems interested. Okay, but in a 60 seconds version, you are definitely going to end this with that statement, that if you feel I need to elaborate on any of the points that I mentioned, please let me know. I'm happy to elaborate on that. And a 5 minutes version is basically you endlessly pitching that why you are the best candidate ever. Okay, and a fourth version, which is an interesting one. Tell me tell me tell me something about yourself. Tell me about yourself which is not there in the form, which is not there in the form. There you cannot say, okay, I did my undergrad from which plan. They already know that. So basically, that person is asking you to cover things which are not already there in your profile. So here you will talk about the family values that you have gained, that you have learned. You'll talk about some life experiences. You'll talk about hobbies, because these things are not covered in your profile, right? So these are basically the four versions you need to prepare. And today is Monday. Consider the deadline to be Saturday, EOD, and please do not use ChatGPT. It's not going to help you, because this is the first iteration. When we are going to ask you questions, when we are going to suggest you why this, why not that, then you will have to think a lot, reflect a lot, and then your core answer is going to come out. So this is just the first version. First version can be raw, can be incomplete, it can be unstructured, it can be grammatically incorrect. All of that is okay, but do not let ChatGPT ruin your answer, or any AI tool ruin your answer, because then we won't be able to go into the depth, and you won't be able to think, because it was not originally your answer. Okay, so yes, so this is the task for until this Saturday. You need to have four versions of tell me about yourself. First, just try to read some newspaper or some whatever, just use some reading tool online to understand how many words you can speak within a minute. If your reading speed is say 70 words per minute, then first version should be some 70-80 words. Second version, 2 minutes version, is 150-160 words. Likewise, basically you can do the maths. So yeah, come up with four versions, send it to us over email, and then we are going to use that in your mock interview, and then we are going to discuss, and we are also going to write you over DM what do you need to improve, and what needs to come out more strongly, what are the follow-up questions that as a panelist we are anticipating, and then we are also going to give you the list of follow-up questions. Okay, basically to make sure that the predictability is as high as possible. Of course, we cannot anticipate all the questions, but to the best of our experience, our knowledge, we'll give you a list of anticipated questions. So this is the task which you have to do. You can use this framework, and this is not hard and fast. This is no hard and fast rule. You can tweak it if you feel your story is not coming out strongly in this one. But yeah, the you to start with, the profile form was very important in a way that, because it had like 25-30 questions, you because you had to write everything. You, towards the end of it, you could identify some pattern in your answers, and you were like, okay, this is my core story. These are 5 6 things which my story has, which should definitely come out in your tell me about yourself. Okay, so start with that, then come to this, then come to this bit. Okay, and just try to club these two, and then come up with this four version. For the first version, we are not going to, for first as in for the first version of each one of these, you can use any format you want to. By format, I mean, if you want to start with fact and then with, okay, I love, because of this I learned this, or however you want to write it, just write it. And then we are going to sit with you, we are going to refine your tell me about yourself answer. I hope that is clear. Uh, and yes, so that is on tell me about yourself. uh, ap- uh Apart from that, we're also the way we have planned this is, and that is our way of doing things, that everyone requires a different type of prep. Person 1 and person 2 are very different. You cannot have a same size fits all approach. um, that is not going to be helpful. So to understand the baseline, we are going to take one mock interview. We are going to release the slot very soon, and then you can book the slot. Okay, and then basis that we will be able to, we have basically a profile evaluation form ready for all of you, which we are using for our internal assessment. And then basis your performance, will know, okay, this is your level, and you need, someone might be great at personal questions but very poor in the other bit. Someone might be great overall but very poor in confidence. So basically, everyone has a different type of issue, right? So we will plan we'll plan your prep, your guidance accordingly. So that is why that is the best approach to start with, to know your baseline, and for that baseline, we'll uh, uh, take first mock interview without a lot of prep. And in the next sessions, we are going to cover a lot of topics, and even minute topics, like if you don't know how to answer a question, or if you don't know what is the answer to this question is, but you do not want to sound dumb, what can you say, what should you say at this, and stuff like, if you think that the interview is going downhill, how can you interrupt to save your interview, how to answer questions when the question is like, no, okay, you have options between option Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, which one will you choose? Or if you have all the shortlist or all the converts, which one will you choose? So we are going to have very specific short sessions on such topics as well. So yes, but yeah, please, on the general awareness bit, we are seeing a lot of lack of enthusiasm. Please, that is not going to help you, because yeah, you need to have opinions on certain important topics, and the type of topics that you are giving, definitely need to have some opinion. So please become active. We give you one whole day to prepare, so do some research. You cannot come up with the excuse that you did not know about this topic. If you are just one Google search away from knowing the answer, and knowing the reasoning, and knowing the facts. So do your work, do your homework, and participate. Your conversion is at stake, not ours. So yes, and reach out to us anytime. We'll be happy to answer your questions, any queries, anything. I hope this was helpful for the session. And yeah, any questions, anything, you can ask any question you want to. Just stop sharing.